A Tale of Magic by Chris Colfer. Chapter 15. Circle of Secrets. The following morning, Mrs. V ran the chimes to announce breakfast, and Bristol climbed down the floating steps to the dining hall. She and her classmates took their seats around the table, but strangely, Madame Weatherbury was absent. They all assumed their teacher was just running late until Mrs. V entered from the kitchen and started serving the meal without her. "Who's hungry?" Mrs. V asked. "Today I'm trying a little recipe I invented called Egg White Surprise. Last one to guess what the surprise is has to do the dishes. Ha ha!" "Shouldn't we wait for Madame Weatherbury to join us?" Bristol asked. "Oh, Madame Weatherbury isn't here," Mrs. V said. "She received a letter last night and left the castle early this morning." "Did she say where she was going or when she would be back?" Bristol asked. The housekeeper scrunched her brow as she tried to remember. "Now that you mention it, I don't believe she did," Mrs. V said. "She's probably making a quick trip to see her sick friend again. She did say she wanted all of you to keep practicing your improvement, rehabilitation, and manifestation and imagination exercises while she's gone. Although you'll have to find another volunteer because I'm officially retired from that position. Ha ha!" Hearing that Madame Weatherbury had snuck off without saying goodbye was troubling. The teacher's odd behavior must have meant the northern conflict was still going on, and Bristol felt foolish for having hoped it was already resolved. All her fears and concerns about Madame Weatherbury's safety immediately returned, depleting her appetite. Bristol sank in her seat and barely touched Mrs. V's egg white surprise. The students and apprentices spent the rest of the morning outside practicing their magic. Bristol acted like a substitute teacher and encouraged her classmates as they conducted the exercises. She even gave them a little assignments to boost their improvement, rehabilitation, manifestation, and imagination skills. With the truth finally revealed about what she was, Lucy practiced her magic with much more confidence than she had before, and she didn't cower from the challenges like she used to. "Great job, Lucy," Bristol praised her. "I asked you to manifest a hot spring, and that's exactly what you did." "Yeah, but it's filled with boiling manure," Lucy said. "You're still making progress, and that's all that matters," Bristol said. Don't take this personally, but I have to do something about that smell before we all pass out." Later that afternoon, the students and apprentices were forced inside the castle when a powerful rainstorm blew in from the north and drenched the academy grounds. As they waited for the storm to pass, the students and apprentices gathered in the sitting room and listened to Bristol read the tales of Tidbit Twitch aloud. Unfortunately, the rain didn't stop, so Bristol continued reading into the evening. The evening turned into night, and Mrs. V headed to bed. But the students and apprentices were enthralled with the story and begged Bristol to keep reading. Even the deer and elk heads mounted to the wall seemed interested. Tidbit splashed through the mushy plains of Swamp Valley for 3 days and 4 nights, Bristol read aloud. Everywhere he turned, the flooded swampland looked exactly the same in all directions, and the mouse feared he had been wandering in circles. He began worrying he would never see his beloved mouse kingdom again. But then the hazy air began to clear, and he saw a fiery volcano glowing in the distance. Tidbit's heart raced because he knew he had finally arrived at the dragon's secret lair. Her audience cheered at the exciting passage, but not everyone was as enchanted by Tidbit's adventure. I'm bored, Lucy moaned. What do you mean you're bored? Emeralda said. This is the part we've been waiting for. Tidbit is finally going to fight the dragon. Lucy rolled her eyes. Look, I mean no respect to Mr. Tidbit. He's a peacock among penguins, but all we ever do is sit around and listen to Bristol read. Don't you guys want to do something different for a change? But we almost finished with the story, Xanthus said. Don't you want to hear the ending? Oh, please, everything in children's fantasy is the same, Lucy complained. Let me guess, our lovable but unlikely hero, Tidbit, eventually arrives at the volcano and confronts the evil dragon. After a nail-biting fight, all seems lost for Tidbit, but then a lucky twist of fate, the little rat manages to defeat the dragon, and Tidbit learns he was much braver than he ever gave himself credit for. Am I close? Everyone turned to Bristol to see if Lucy was correct. Bristol was shocked by the accuracy of Lucy's guess, and her mouth dropped open. Spoiler alert, Skylene groaned. See, I told you, Lucy said. Now let's do something fun. Well, you've already ruined our night, Tangerina said. What else do you want to do? I don't know, something crazy and spontaneous, Lucy said, and excitedly thought of different options. Oh, let's go unicorn tipping. I am not going outside in this rain, Emeralda said. If I catch a cold, I'll be coughing up emeralds for weeks. All right, fair enough, Lucy said. Then maybe we could play a prank on Mrs. V. We can sneak into her bedroom while she's asleep and put her hand in a bowl of water. That's classic. Classically cool, Bristol said. Do you have any ideas that don't involve harming innocent people or animals? Lucy couldn't think of any off the top of her head. She went quiet and scratched her neck while she brainstormed the perfect activity. I've got it, she explained. Let's break into Madame Weatherbury's office while she's gone. I'm sure we'll find something worth doing in there. Tangerine and Skylene were both appalled by Lucy's proposition. We can't go into Madame Weatherbury's office, Tangerina said. It's against the rules, and we don't have many rules to begin with. And you've already broken half of them, Skylene added. We'll only get into trouble if we get caught, Lucy said. Madame Weatherbury will never know we were in there. We'll just pop in for a quick second, take a look, and if we don't find anything entertaining, I promise we'll turn around and leave. What do you say? Normally, Bristol would never have endorsed such an activity, but she was intrigued by Lucy's idea. Since Madame Weatherbury had left the academy in such a hurry that morning, it was possible she might have left something behind that would reveal where she had gone. Perhaps Bristol would find a letter from the witches that Madame Weatherbury had left out. Perhaps she'd find a clue that offered insight into what northern conflict was. If nothing else, Bristol could probably determine Madame Weatherbury's location on the enlarged map of magic hanging on the office wall. Come on, guys, Lucy pleaded. I feel like I'm in solitary confidence. Solitary confinement. Can't we please do something stimulating just once? I'm begging you. You know, even though it's against the rules, sneaking into Madame Weatherbury's office is practically harmless, Bristol told the others. And if it gets Lucy to shut up about being bored... Fine, we'll give it a try, Tangerina said, but I sincerely doubt we'll get inside. Madame Weatherbury's office is probably protected by a powerful enchantment. A sly grin came to Lucy's face. Challenge accepted, she said. Lucy hopped off the sofa and proceeded into the entrance hall. The others followed her into the hall and up the floating staircase to the second floor. The children gathered around Madame Weatherbury's office, and Lucy tried opening the doors the traditional way, but they didn't budge. Lucy then removed a hairpin from her pocket and sat on her knees while she examined the doorknobs and peeked through the keyhole. Tangerine and Skylene nervously looked back and forth between the unicorn and griffin carvings on Madame Leatherbear's doors, as if the magical creatures were judging their mischievous behavior. "This is a mistake," Tangerina said. "We should go back downstairs and find something else to do. Maybe we could play a board game, or hide and seek, or we could dress up the mounted heads in the door is open," Lucy announced. "What?" Tangerina asked in shock. "How did you get past the enchantment?" "I just picked the lock," Lucy said with a shrug. "Come on, let's go in." Lucy pushed upon the doors and led her timid classmates inside. Madame Leatherberry's office was always a welcoming and cheerful place, but since it was strictly off-limits during their teacher's absence, the charming room felt eerie. The pouring rain and thunderstorm outside didn't help matters. With every flash of lightning, Madame Leatherberry's glass furniture lit up like chandeliers. As soon as they were inside, Lucy started searching through the various cabinets and shelves. She pushed the potions and spellbooks aside as if she was looking for something in particular. Her classmates stayed in close huddle by the door, afraid to touch anything. Bristol stayed with the others, but looked around the room thoroughly. She tried to spot something out of the ordinary, but unfortunately the office was impeccably organized, and Bristol didn't see a single thing that seemed out of place. "Aha!" Lucy explained. "She still has it." "Still has what?" Skylene asked. Lucy removed a beautiful crystal bottle from a cabinet and held it up for her classmates to see. As she presented the bottle, a devious smile spread across her face. "Have you ever tried Fabulous Fizz before?" Fabulous Fizz before?" Lucy asked. "Fabulous Fizz?" Xanthus asked. "I've never heard of it." "It's a magical beverage," Lucy eagerly explained. "It's a celebration drink the magical community serves on very special occasions. When my family was on tour a couple of years ago, a member of the Goblin Tenors gave me a bottle for my 11th birthday. Believe me, it's unlike anything you've ever tasted. When my parents brought me to the academy, I saw Madame Leatherberry had a bottle stashed in here. We should have some." "You can't drink that," Tangerina said. "She'll know we were in here." "Put it back before you incriminate us," Skylene said. "Well, you two lighten up," Lucy said. "The whole cabinet is covered in dust. Madame Leatherberry won't even notice it's missing." "I'm going to take the first sip." Before they could convince her otherwise, Lucy used her teeth to pull the cork out from the bottle and took a satisfying swig. After her first gulp, Lucy burst into a fizz of giggles and held her stomach like a Fabulous Fizz was tickling her from the inside out. She started hiccuping, and large pink bubbles floated out of her mouth. "Now that's some good stuff," Lucy laughed. "Who wants a taste?" "Not me," Tangerina said. "Me neither," Skylene said. "I'll have some," Emeralda said. Tangerina and Skylene were visibly disappointed in Emeralda's willingness, but it didn't stop her. Lucy passed the bottle to Emeralda, and she took a sip. She swirled the Fabulous Fizz in her mouth for a couple of moments in a sophisticated manner. After she swallowed, Emeralda started chuckling like Lucy, and she blew bubbles out of her mouth one at a time. "She's right, that's delicious," Emeralda said. "It reminds me of the cold brew the dwarfs used to drink in the mine, except it doesn't have the charcoal aftertaste. You guys are missing out if you don't give it a try." Emeralda handed the Fabulous Fizz to Xanthus, and he peered inside the bottle as if it contained poison. "There isn't any alcohol in this, is there?" Xanthus asked. Lucy had to think about it, and Bristol could tell she didn't know the answer. "Of course not," Lucy decided. "Go on, Sparky, give it a try." Xanthus was overwhelmed by the pure pressure and took a quick drink. The sensation was much more amusing than he had predicted, and he laughed so hard bubbles erupted from his nose. After watching Xanthus' pleasant reaction, Tangerina and Skylene didn't want to be left out, so they tried the Fabulous Fizz next. The girls giggled at each other and popped their bubbles as they burped them up. Bristol had the very last sip of the Fabulous Fizz, and just like the others, she chuckled as the fizzy beverage filled her stomach, and the bubbles tickled her tongue as they floated out of her mouth. All right, we've had our fun, Tangerina said. Now let's get out of here before we wake Mrs. V. What are you talking about? Lucy said. We're just getting started. She snatched the empty bottle of Fabulous Fizz from Bristol. I know what we should do next. Let's play Circle of Secrets. What Circle of Secrets? Skylene asked. It's a version of Spin the Bottle that you play with It's a version of Spin the Bottle that you play with unattractive people, Lucy explained. No offense, I just rather have lemon juice in my eye than kiss any of you. The game is simple. We all sit in a circle and spin a bottle. Whoever it lands on has to share a secret they've never told anyone. Before her classmates could object to playing the game, Lucy positioned everyone in a circle and sat them on the floor. She placed the bottle in the center and gave it a strong spin. As it came to a stop, Lucy blew on the bottle until it pointed to herself. Oh, great! I get to start us off, she said. Okay, I've got a good one. A few years ago, my family was performing in a variety show in the Western Kingdom. Well, it just so happened that Vinnie Von Vick, the most famous tambourine player in the whole world, was performing in that same show. Naturally, I was jealous and worried he would outshine me, so I locked him in his dressing room and he missed the performance. To this day, I still feel guilty whenever I think of old Vinnie Von Vick, and sometimes when it's quiet, I can still hear him banging on that dressing room door. I doubt that's the worst thing you've ever done, Tangerina said. He was in there for 3 weeks and missed the birth of his first child, Lucy added. All right, let's keep this pleasantly flying. Who's next? Lucy gave the bottle another spin and it landed on Bristol. Oh gosh, this is the tough one, she said. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't really have any secrets. Not anymore. At least when I was living in the Southern Kingdom, everything I did was a secret. I had a secret collection of books, I had a secret job at the library, and of course being a fairy was the ultimate secret. I guess none of that matters now that I'm here. It's funny how a change of scenery can completely change someone. Lucy groaned and rolled her eyes. Yeah, it's hysterical, she said. Moving on, she spun the bottle with gusto. And when it finally stopped, the bottle was pointing directly at Xanthus. I don't really have any secrets either, he said. Are you sure? Lucy asked. When the others weren't looking, Lucy winked at Bristol. It suddenly dawned on her why Lucy wanted to play Circle of Secrets. She was trying to figure out what Xanthus's big secret was about the night his father perished in fire. I'm positive, the boy said. I spent so much effort hiding my powers, I didn't have time for any other secrets. Come on, Zany, I'm sure you've got one in you, Lucy said. You've never done something you knew you weren't supposed to. You've never been caught in the middle of misbehaving. You've never committed a forbidden act that resulted in an accidental but horrific event. Those are very specific questions, Esmeralda noted. Xanthus was confused by Lucy's interrogation, but it didn't take long for him to remember the event she was fishing for. The memory made the color dream from his cheeks. He looked to the floor with a devastated gaze, and he gripped his pewter medal with both hands. Oh yeah, he said softly. I suppose something like that did happen to me once. And Lucy pressed. I don't want to talk about it. It happened on the night my father died. I'm afraid you have to tell us, Lucy said. Otherwise, it's 7 years bad luck. 7 years? Xanthus asked in a panic. I don't make the rules. I just play the game, she said. Bristol covered Lucy's mouth and took over the conversation before Xanthus was traumatized any further. Xanthus, this game isn't going to give you bad luck, she said. This is just Lucy's unique way of trying to help you. We all know how terrible keeping a secret can feel. Secrets are like parasites. The longer you keep them inside you, the more damage they cause. So if you ever want to talk about the night your father passed away, we'll be ready to listen. The troubled boy thought about it and slowly nodded. You're right, Xanthus asked. It doesn't do me any good keeping it to myself. I just hope it doesn't change any of your opinions of me. Of course it won't, Bristol said. We made a pact, remember? You wouldn't get rid of us if you tried. Her smile gave Xanthus the courage he needed. The boy sat straight up and let out a deep breath. A few nights before Madame Weatherbury recruited me into her academy, I was at home by myself. He told the others. That night, my father came home from the pub earlier than he normally did. He walked into the house and caught me doing something I knew I shouldn't have been doing. It was something he'd repeatedly told me not to do. My father began beating me, and I accidentally started a fire that burned down our house and took his life. What did he catch you doing? Emeralda asked. Recalling that night made Xanthus' eyes water and his jaw quiver. Everyone in the room was on pins and needles as they waited for him to answer. He, Xanthus said with difficulty. He caught me playing with dolls. After the confession was made, tears streamed down his cheek and he covered his face in shame. His classmates were shocked, not because of what he had confessed, but because it was nothing even close to what they were expecting. Dolls, Lucy explained. That's your big secret? Xanthus lowered his hand and peeked at his classmates. You don't think that's wrong? He asked. Wrong, Lucy blurted out. Xanthus, do you know how many men play with dolls in show business? Okay, let me put it this way. If they all disappeared overnight, there would be no show business. Really? Xanthus asked. You're not just saying that to make me feel better. I never say things to make people feel better, Lucy said. Gosh, I'm so disappointed right now. I was hoping you were making weapons or hosting rooster fights or writing radical manifestos. Not in a million years would I have guessed it was something as simple as playing with dolls. If your father was cruel enough to beat his own son for that, he deserves to be dead. The whole room gaped at Lucy's extreme statement, but in many ways it was exactly what Xanthus needed to hear. Bristol knew what he was thinking without having to ask him. Xanthus had been raised to believe his interests and professions were shameful and despicable. To finally have someone dismiss them as simple and shameless was the greatest gift he could have been given. The boy sighed with relief like an invisible weight had been lifted off his shoulders. I understand how you feel, Bristol told him. It's ironic, but when I was growing up in the Southern Kingdom, I was forced to play with dolls. I was always furious about the expectations they placed on girls, but I never realized it was just as unfair for the boys. Xanthus nodded. Maybe it was for the best, he said. If we had everything we wanted, then we might never have found what we need now. Bristol and Xanthus shared a warm smile, knowing how grateful they both were to put the Southern Kingdom behind them. That's it, we're done with this game, Lucy announced. Playing Circle of Secrets with you guys is like playing I Spy with blind mole rats. Let's find something else to do. Oh, I have an idea, Tangerina said. Why don't we leave the office while we still can? That sounds terrible, Lucy said. Instead of playing a game, why don't we tell ghost stories? The weather is perfect for it. That sounds like fun, Xanthus said. Who wants to go first? I know a good story, Xanthus said. Back in the coal mine, the dwarfs used to talk about a phantom mine cart that moved through the caverns all by itself. Ooh, creepy, Lucy said. Go on. A blank expression came to Esmeralda's face. Well, there was a phantom minecart that moved through the caverns all by itself, she repeated. What more do you want? That can't be the best story you've got, Lucy said. Esmeralda bit her lip and squinted at the ceiling while she thought about it. Actually, there is another story I could tell, she said. And the scariest part is that it's about someone who's still living. Have any of you guys heard of the Snow Queen? All her classmates shook their heads, excited to learn more. She's a real person causing a really big problem right now, Esmeralda explained. The Northern Kingdom has tried to keep her a secret to prevent mass hysteria, but when you live in the in-between like I did, you tend to get the unabridged version of bad news. Wait a second, Bristol said, and leaned forward. Did you just say she's causing trouble in the Northern Kingdom? Trouble is an understatement, Esmeralda said. The Snow Queen is causing destruction like the world has never seen. Many years ago, the Snow Queen was just a simple witch with a specialty for controlling the weather. One night, an angry mob found her home and killed her family. The loss devastated the witch. Her rage made her powers grow stronger than ever before, and she became the Snow Queen we know today. Right now, as we speak, the Snow Queen is attacking the Northern Kingdom as part of her revenge against humankind. And according to what I heard, she has more than half the kingdom in her frosty clutches. Oh, I have heard about this woman, Lucy said. She's the reason the North has been so cold lately. My family had to cancel the northern leg of our last tour because all the roads were frozen. Skylane leaned in closer to Tangerina and whispered in her friend's ear, I wonder if the Snow Queen has anything to do with the northern conflict. The girl's conversation caught Bristol's attention, and she jerked her head in their direction. She couldn't believe her ears. Skylane had said exactly what Bristol was thinking. Did you just say the northern conflict? Bristol asked. Yeah, Skylane said. Have you heard of it? Once or twice, Bristol said. Do you know what it is? We wish, Tangerina said. Me and Skylane heard Madame Weatherberry bring it up when she met with the sovereigns to talk about the academy, but we could barely make out what they were saying. She always asked us to leave the room before they started talking about it. In that case, I bet the Snow Queen is actually... In that case, I bet the Snow Queen is the northern conflict, Lucy said. Every show worth talking about has a strong leading lady. But how can we be sure the Snow Queen actually exists? Bristol asked. How do we know it's not just a story? My papa has customers who have seen her with their own eyes, Esmeralda said. They say the Snow Queen can summon a blizzard in seconds. They say she wears a giant snowflake as a crown and a fur coat made from the hair of her enemies. They say she abducts children from their homes and feasts on their innocent flesh. They say it doesn't matter how hard the Northern Kingdom's army fights her. She only becomes stronger and stronger. And most terrifying of all, they say the Snow Queen won't stop until the whole world is covered in her icy wrath. As if Esmeralda had planned it, the conclusion of the story was followed by a flash of lightning that made everyone scream. Well, I say it's time for bed, Tangerina said. I've had as much mischief and horror as I can stand for one night. I agree, Skylane yawned. I'm going to have nightmares enough as it is. We don't have to be worried about the Snow Queen, though, do we? Xanthus asked. I mean, there isn't a chance she might come to the academy, is there? Probably not, Emeralda said. The northern kingdom is so far away from here. I bet someone stops her before she gets close to us. The classmates called it a night and headed for the door, but Bristol stayed seated on the floor. Her heart was racing after listening to Emeralda's story, not because the tale was frightened her, but because of how frighteningly familiar it all sounded. Bristol, are you coming? Lucy asked from the doors. I've got to lock up on our way out so it doesn't look suspicious. Just a moment, she said. I want to check something before we go. Bristol moved a chair under the enlarged map of magic that hung over the fireplace. She climbed onto the chair and took a close look at all the glittering stars that represented the different fairies and witches living around the world. However, when Bristol's eyes moved past the northern kingdom, the majority of the country was blank. Even the areas surrounding the major cities and the kingdom's capital were completely vacant of magical life. Bristol wondered if it was just a coincidence or if the magical community had evacuated to save themselves from the Snow Queen's destruction. Only a small cluster of 5 stars remained in the dark area of the northern kingdom, and among them was one of the brightest stars on the map. One by one, Bristol touched the stars with her finger, and the names Felina Scratchworth, Crowbeth Clawdale, Squiddle Inkerson, and Newtalia Vipes appeared next to them. Then Bristol touched the largest star in the group and gasped when the name Celeste Weatherberry appeared beside it. So that's Madame Weatherberry's secret. Bristol sighed to herself. She hasn't been leaving the academy to visit a sick friend. She's been in the Northern Kingdom fighting the Snow Queen. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share to your friends for more videos. Do it. Or my dog will eat your chihuahua. Bye.